I like to ask everybody this question, and we were just sort of talking about how much you value precision in language. In the bodywork space, we talk about tension all the time, especially in muscles, fascia, maybe other structures too, mainly those. Is that a word that you use, and what does it mean to you?
It's such a good question. Tension, I use it in a few different ways that are maybe, no, I don't like the word conflicting, and generative tension with one another. How about that? So in some ways, like I'd say the most sort of a more neutral reading of tension, like far from it being a bad thing, which sometimes it is a really uncomfortable thing that negatively affects our lives. Definitely true for me. But I'll say tension in a body as the experience of tightness or pain, or people could fill in the blanks with whatever words they use to describe what tension feels like in their bodies. My neutral reading of it is it's a place that's drawing our attention for a reason. Where we feel tension isn't always where a like problem is. Sometimes a movement pattern somewhere else is asking too much of a particular place. For whatever reason, we develop a strategy in that place of holding. So that would be my way of describing one of the ways I think the word tension is used commonly, which, and maybe the most commonly, is there's a tension pattern sort of in our like upper backs between our shoulder blades. Maybe it's traps, rhomboids, a combination of things of like that starts also in babyhood from certain reflexes that are there for a reason, and that we also kind of get locked into, or they're my strategy for holding on beyond my capacity is like right here. And that's a really common one for a lot of us. So there's that kind of tension, which someone might see a body worker like you for, and which I might see a body worker for, or I might kind of throw my arsenal of, yoga or foam rolling, or even, using my attention to probe that place. And then there's also tension, to kind of preface this with, that's um, more like I want to say it's almost like a relationship laid bare between two or more things, like tension, and that could even be something in like day and night, or some like things appearing as opposites or complements. There's kind of a tension there in that, to me, the line of relationship, or maybe not line, the pathway of relationship is really clear. And that would be something I call tension. I hope that makes sense. Like, again, it's a place that draws attention. So by generative tension, it might mean even not fighting myself in movement, but finding a way to feel myself more. So an example in movement, like a physical experience of that, might be using a resistance band in an exercise, and the way that lets me feel myself differently than no resistance. But again, I'm using resistance in kind of a neutral light, if not positive. So, so I think there's like tension that gets colored as bad because it's uncomfortable or drawing my attention when I want to be paying attention to you, and but I'm like, I feel my neck and shoulders. Or there's tension that's more like, these things are like clearly related and resting on one another, and I couldn't have one without the other, where that's what I mean by generative tension.
And so that would be like bodily structures.
Good question. Yeah. Or something more like theoretical or schematic or conceptual too. Um, or relational. Like even something like weight sharing in dance, where you're practicing, which is a little like contact improv, but practicing through touch, like giving weight to one another to feel ourselves,
Hmm.
which we're doing all the time and maybe aren't aware of. And there's something about doing it consciously, whether I'm giving my weight to the earth to receive support, to walk, or to rest, or giving my weight to a person where it's the like psycho-emotional components are more laid bare about what it is to share weight or to like, again, to like feel oneself. There's something in that resistance that, and people are going to need different amounts. Some people, very little might register as too much for any given reason. For others, it might take a lot. Which I would even say something you probably even see that in massage work. For whatever reason, our nervous systems are wired different ways, and some people don't need a lot of deep touch to feel, and some people probably want to get like beaten up in their like
Totally.
massage session. And I used to be that person more, and now I'm getting a little more like where like subtle can go really deep, sometimes deeper. So
Yeah. Same.
yeah.
Yeah, I've never thought of tension that way. That's really interesting. I remember that from your yoga class that I went to, us talking about kind of, I'm trying to remember how you said it. It was like letting ourselves find the positions in contact with gravity. Is that right? Something like that.
Yeah, I remember which class you came to, and I'm trying to remember what I taught in it, but I believe it was something about like resting and letting. I think I worked with the like it's a body mind centering concept of letting, if you can't let all of your whole body weight go, of letting communities of cells or even individual cells migrate to the place of contact. I think that's what we were working on that time. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And it was really profound for me. It was like surprisingly, I mean, I also do a movement practice, a standing practice that's kind of similar in that through a specific spot in the foot is sort of all about trying to drop everything into the ground and really like connect with the ground and stand through the ground. But this doing this on my back, like I found myself on the verge of tears at a couple different points in the class. It was something about that, like more letting go and surrendering into that sort of connection or like generative tension, maybe with gravity that was, yeah, new.
Cool. And I mean, I would say it sounds like, at least from like you mentioning the practice that you're doing, like that's it. And I think it's just more familiar in our feet because we're bipedal and walking more familiar, and yet still takes time and exploration like you're doing. But yeah, the way what you described at least sounds exactly like what I'm intending, whatever surface we're standing on or lying on. Could do it in handstand too. Just we have some of us can't get there, or we have way less time doing that than than walking around. So